All right, and we are back live with PB Betting College Football Podcast going into the Week 8 preview already. Mr. Paisley, great to be back. Another week. We got a loaded slate, ton of games, 7 or 8 games, maybe more that we'll get to. How are we doing this week?
Doing good, Case. Doing good. Ready to bounce back here. Great slate, like you said. A lot of great games. Schedule is packed full, and even some good lower level matchups that we'll highlight later in the G5. So things are really hitting our stride here in the scheduling part of the season. Very exciting time. I'm ready to go, sir. I can't wait to get into these games.
Yeah, and it's officially that time where we're getting the Maction going on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So we're we're trying to do daily picks on the page, so you can keep looking for those. And yeah, as I highlighted, we got 9 games that we'll break down. We have our picks, our preliminary picks here at the end of the podcast of just some early spreads that we like this week. And then, of course, at the end, we got the underdog parlay of the week, 2 underdogs to win outright. I think it'll be a pretty good one. I'm feeling really good about it this week, Paisley. Anyway, with that being said, we'll get right into it. We got a ton of games here. Start off in the SEC, LSU going to Vanderbilt. Vandy is a 2.5-point favorite. Of course, they are 5-1 with just the one loss to Alabama. LSU, of course, also sitting at 5-1. This game feels to me it's kind of a prove-it game for both teams. I think both teams are kind of expected to win this game, and you kind of see it in the spread. It's only 2.5 right now on DraftKings in favor of Vanderbilt. Total sitting at 48.5. This one I think is really important for both these teams. It's like I said, it's kind of a prove-it game. Vandy really wants to, if they want any long shot at the playoff or just, stay competitive here in the SEC, they really need this one. It's back home. And then the same thing kind of for LSU. They already have a loss. Of course, they got, they started out the season hot, but now they're in a situation where I feel like they're kind of have their back against the wall and cannot afford to lose this game. So getting started right off the bat here on noon on Saturday, going to be a great game here, Paisley, between LSU and Vanderbilt.
Yeah, it's a great matchup. Who would have thought that Vanderbilt would be a favorite against LSU a couple of years ago? If you had somebody time traveling here, they wouldn't believe you. But that's where we're at, and I kind of like the favorite. I'm actually leaning towards Diego Pavia and the Vanderbilt. That's just a great setup for me. I get to bet a team that I love betting in Vanderbilt, a team that I don't like in general in LSU, who I did bet that 1 week against Ole Miss, and they did let me down. So we'll see if tides change this week. But I actually do like Vanderbilt in a good amount. I don't care if they're the favorite. I think if it's under 3, I think that's still a play. People are starting to buy back on LSU at +3. I don't think I got to 3.5. So I think it's going to be a fair action, two-way market. I could see both sides. LSU, their defense is very, very good. That is something that has been consistent. Got to give a lot of credit to Blake Baker, the defensive coordinator, for really, in his 3rd year now, really turn around that defense that was embarrassing when Brian Kelly and him first got there to now a top 10 unit. They're really playing really well on that side of the ball. But I think Vanderbilt's offense could do enough with their scheme. They're also coming off of a bye, which is what I like to see. For a team that I'm backing. But I think, Vanderbilt, very run-heavy team. LSU is just a very good defense, so it's going to be really hard sledding just in general on that side of the ball. But I think they could do enough, and I just don't trust this LSU offense. I really think it's broken. It's not making much sense. So if they do start clicking and it turns a page, I wouldn't be shocked because they have such good receivers. I still believe in Nussmeier, but the O-line is definitely an issue. They can't seem to run the ball. Their pass protection is not great. He doesn't look comfortable back there. And I think Vanderbilt's defense is definitely an upgrade over what it's been the last couple of years. They kind of, slow the game down, give their defense some breaks on offense with running the ball and keeping the ball away from the other team's offense. So I think that'll be a big play here. If Vanderbilt could control the clock here, keep LSU's offense off the field, keep their defense well rested. I just think this game really lines up, and I think a lot of people are on LSU just because of the underdog role. But I'm not afraid here to take Vandy. I think they get a big win and a big SEC matchup. We're talking about some of these teams we broke down in length, Penn State and their fall off. Texas was falling downhill. I think there's still a couple teams, Case, that could start falling down the hill even this late in the season in the midway part here. You look at LSU's schedule coming up. It's just a bunch of ranked opponents. After this, they got Texas A&M, Alabama, and then Oklahoma to end the year or later in the year. So if they lose this one, drop another game, and then start dropping a couple in a row, things could get a little testy over there for Brian Kelly and LSU. Not calling for a firing, but I'm just saying one of these LSU or one of these SEC teams are just going to have to lose a bunch in a row. And I think Vanderbilt, my dark horse team here, I think they get a big staple win at home in the noon slot. Love it here. Give me Diego Pavia and the boys.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I think I lean Vanderbilt also just because of the spot too. Like you said, they're coming off a bye, which is always good. Some teams respond better than others off the bye, but Vandy's going to be well rested. They look good against Alabama too. I remember a couple weeks ago when we recapped that game. I was impressed with Vanderbilt, even though the scoreboard didn't really reflect that. By the end of the game, with that 30-14, that was a game for nearly the whole way through, and then a couple things went Alabama's way late. And yeah, Nussmeier just hasn't looked great either. I think preseason, all the hype was there. They get the big win over Clemson. Then we find out that maybe Clemson isn't all that great. And really, since then, their offense has been, sputtering. Of course, they lost to Ole Miss. Their offense didn't look great against South Carolina, a team that I think they're much more talented. And I agree. I think Vandy in this spot, they're home. They're more of a Cinderella type of story. I know they don't want to think of themselves like that anymore. Back-to-back years of playing pretty well, but still, they're kind of have a little bit more fight in them, I think, than LSU. And yeah, for those reasons, I 100% agree. I'm probably going to take Vandy. You'll probably see it on my card Saturday. That's how much I like it right now. And they're just home. And it's a game, they let Alabama slip away. This is their other opportunity to get a big win. And I agree. I think we'll have a statement win here on Saturday by Vanderbilt.
Yeah, it also lean a little under too. I know it's a kind of low total for college, but I could just see Vanderbilt grind this out. LSU's offense struggles, like you brought up that South Carolina game. I forgot to mention that I watched that whole game. I was on South Carolina. I think they got a defensive or special team score LSU in that one, or got set up with good field position. So they really scored 20 points at home against a really bad South Carolina defense. So that was very troublesome. So you're on the road against a better opponent. I just don't see them putting up more than 20, 17 points, and I think Vanderbilt could put up a little more than that.
Yeah, so huge opportunity for Vandy to get the statement win over would it be right now a top 10 LSU team. So that's noon Saturday, and then we also got another great noon game here in the ACC. Not many great ACC matchups so far throughout the season, but here we got number 12 Georgia Tech, who is currently undefeated. They're still 6-0. Of course, they've been the storyline of the ACC, one of the storylines, I should say, a preseason team that we thought is going to be a lot better. They indeed are. Haynes King playing great. They've won all their games. Maybe haven't done it in dominant, fashion or any means like that. They have that close call against Wake Forest, but they do have the win, over Clemson. And they have to go on the road to the Duke Blue Devils, who's also had like an up and down season. I know you were a little high on Duke to start the year. Then you kind of regressed a little bit after the loss to Tulane. And then here they are since then, scoring a ton of points on offense, 45 against North Carolina State, 38 against Syracuse, 45 against Cal. I know a couple of people picking them as a dark horse to, make that ACC championship appearance game to play Miami. If things go their way, they're still undefeated in conference. So huge game. The spread's only 1.5. And, shockingly, in a way, Duke is actually the slight favorite right now, practically a pick 'em, but Duke is -1.5. Makes me think maybe, Duke will win this game outright. We see these weird lines sometimes, and, everybody wants to take the high ranked team. And then, of course, here comes unranked Duke, that slight favorite over number 12 Georgia Tech. Total much higher than LSU. Vandy sitting at 61.5. So Paisley, is the Duke offense going to continue to score at their high level? A big test here. They're at home against number 12 Georgia Tech.
Yeah, fun one in the ACC here. To answer your first question, I think they will. I think they'll have a lot of success, but I still like Georgia Tech in the game, though. And that's why I kind of like the over in this game to start. 61.5, definitely a little steep, but I think it's going to be very back and forth. Duke's offense, like you said, has really been taken off. I've just been picking the wrong spots with them. I was high on them to start the year. They didn't play good. Got off the wagon. Now they're starting to look a lot better. Mensah, the quarterback from Tulane last year, is playing at a very high level. And that's what I expected him. I just can't get that Illinois loss out of my head. But, it was a fluky game with 5 turnovers. So turnovers could be a huge thing. Georgia Tech coughed up the ball a lot in the first couple games. So let's see who could stay clean in this game. But I was just very shocked the number case like you were. I just can't believe Duke's the favorite here, even though it's a slight favorite. Got up to 3 at some points during the week when I was looking at the markets here. And I'm just very confused by it. I do like this Georgia Tech team. This is, again, another team that I was kind of buying on. I really like this team. Big win against Clemson, like we said, at home. We know Clemson's not that great, but that was still a nice victory to have in your pocket there. And yeah, I think they're a really good focused team. They kind of play up to these bigger games, and then they kind of aren't the best laying a big number or playing these as big favorites. If you look at their past schedule, like you mentioned, so I feel like they do get up for these games. They do good in these underdog or pick 'em type games. So that's why I'm going with Georgia Tech here. You'll find them on my card. I was very surprised this 1.5. This number's been going up and down. I think Georgia Tech opened as a small favorite, went all the way up to Duke -3, and now back a lot of Georgia Tech money today as we record. So this number is fluctuating all around. If you could grab a 2.5, plus 2.5, or it's probably not going to get back up to 3 for Georgia Tech, I would definitely advise that. I just think they're going to be able to run the ball. I just don't think Duke's defense is solved. Like we said, their offense is putting a lot up in a lot of numbers, but winning a lot of shootouts, and the defense still has a lot of problems, which is interesting from a Manny Diaz-led team. But they take a lot of chances. They blitz a lot. So if they're not hitting home, they don't really tackle well. The fundamentals aren't there. So I can see a lot of slip tackles, a lot of big plays, chunk plays on both sides of the ball here. So I just kind of like Georgia Tech enough here to get enough stops at the end, calm it down. I trust their run game. I really like Haynes King. But Duke is looking dynamic on offense. That's why I'll take the over. But from an overall perspective and a side, I'm going to go Georgia Tech. I just think they're more complete and should be the slight favorite, but I'll take the points if you're going to give me them.
Great points, Paisley, and I do like Haynes King, and I do like Georgia Tech. They were, I think, a team that we were both kind of on in the preseason. I know nationally a lot of people were too. This is a weird game for me. I think I'm going to go a little head to head with you, though. I think I'm going to actually pick Duke to win this game, and it's partly just because their offense has been playing great, and the spread is so. It's such a strange spread that I've been in these situations where it almost feels like a no-brainer. Like I'm going to take Georgia Tech. I think they're going to win the game, by a touchdown or so. And then Duke kind of just comes out of nowhere. Also, I do have enough faith in Manny Diaz. I think he's going to have them ready. I think this is a big game for them. They stumbled. I think they're a little ticked off after their loss against Tulane. So I just think they're going to have a little bit of fight here. And I think they'll catch Georgia Tech off guard. I'm not going to be absolutely stunned if Georgia Tech wins this game. And I do think if Duke wants to win, like I think they will and could, they are going to have to score a lot of points, which is why I am in agreement with you on the over 61.5. So I'll definitely be playing that. That's probably their only way here they could win this game. But I think it's going to be a close game. I think we're going to see a lot of points, but I'm gonna go with the with not really an upset because they're the slight favorite, but at least the ranked upset. I think we're going to be pretty surprised here. I think Duke's going to get a huge win in the ACC and defeat Georgia Tech.
You just want your potential future head coach at Penn State there, Manny Diaz, to look good. So I think that could have some bias towards it, but
that's possible.
I mean, we could say that about a lot of people because they do have 100 candidates listed out for Penn State, but that's enough Penn State talk. But it's usually when we go head to head, one of us has to win. So I kind of like this. And when we agree, it usually does not go well. So
that's true. I don't know if I love it as much to put on my card Saturday. We'll see. Maybe I will actually, because this is one of those games. I'm telling you, these head scratching games, I always just end up going with my gut. I always get screwed. And after I went 4-10 last week, I need to change my whole philosophy here. Like I said last week, I know nothing about college football anymore. So I'm almost just trying to outsmart myself here. And I'm gonna ride with Duke. Here. Manny Diaz gotta score a lot of points. I think it'll be a fun game to watch, like you said. So if you're not an SEC guy, you don't want to watch that, throw on Georgia Tech Duke. It should be a great game. All right, moving on. We got Big Ten action here. A little big noon. This is the only Big Ten game really that's worth talking about this week out of this loaded slate. We got Washington traveling all the way to Ann Arbor, Michigan. Michigan, of course, had the letdown loss in Southern Cal last week, so now they come back home, and now they host another West Coast team in Washington. Michigan laying 6.5 points here. Total is 50.5. And one thing to note, this is a noon kick. That would be 9 a.m. local for Washington. They got to travel east. Could be a little tough spot. So keep that in mind on this strange one in the Big Ten. But we got Washington at Michigan. Winner will probably sneak their way back up in the top 25. Probably for sure Washington if they get the win. They only have that one loss on the season against Ohio State. So they've been doing a little bit better, I think, than some people thought. But then again, they've had some close calls too. So Washington at Michigan, 6.5 point favorite for the Wolverines. Total Paisley sitting at 50.5.
Yeah, I'd love to see the metrics here on all these teams traveling in the Big Ten and the away team and they're against the spread numbers because it can't be good. I'm just thinking of a couple, factors. We looked at USC as a perfect example, going on the road to Illinois, looked tough, looked sluggish, finally got off the mat third, fourth quarter, came back, wasn't enough. Now, fast forward to last week, they looked fresh right out of the gates, and Michigan looked a little slow, sluggish start. So that's where I just have a little pause because I do like Washington. As I went on my rant on Michigan last week, I just do not think they're good. I think this is a little too rich. I think that's too many points, but that's why I can't get it to a love or like, maybe a full unit play. I'm still battling this one in my own betting slip. So I probably will be on Washington, see where the number settles. It's been pretty consistent at 6.5. If it goes up to 7, it'll probably be a nice go there. But so I'll take them with the points. I still think Michigan's going to win the game outright, but I think it's going to be a little closer than what people expect. I don't think Michigan's just going to be able to – I just don't think they're that type of team this year to really just outclass them, out-physical them. You saw Sherrone Moore wearing his blue-collar, literal blue-collar in the press conference, and I'm like, dude, that's not your issue is being physical and running the ball. I mean, it was last game against USC, but they are just like – I don't know what they're doing in Michigan. They have to be able to throw the ball. They have to add a little finesse into their game. Wink Martindale at DC is a terrible coach. He has no idea what he's doing. He got fired in the NFL ranks and is not doing well here. So not a lot that I like on the Michigan side. Now I got to lay close to a touchdown. But like you said, the travel and all those factors definitely go against Washington here. If you look at Jed Fish, I know it's only his second year, but apparently he is terrible on the road too, just in general when he got to Washington. So a lot of factors here, so that's why I don't have a strong play in this one, but I definitely do lean to Washington here. They did not look good against Ohio State, but who is looking good against that Ohio State defense? They have looked good otherwise, so where does Michigan's defense fall in that if you want to back Washington? And on the flip side, I think they keep talking about they got to let it open. They got to open up the pass game, and they did that when Sherrone Moore was not on the sidelines. So until I see it, I can't trust this offense and Bryce Underwood, who's the greatest thing since sliced bread, putting up huge numbers, and really the receivers are down on the outside. Michigan, they're not that great. So I trust Washington's defense enough to kind of load up the box here, stop the run, and force Michigan to beat you on the outside. So I feel like it could work against Nebraska. It could work against some lower-level teams. But when they're stepping up in class here, it's going to be a little tough, I think, for Michigan just to overpower these teams. I just don't see it. I could see Sherrone Moore on the hot seat at the end of the year, but then they'll beat Ohio State, and maybe he'll get a lifetime contract. But I'm going with Washington this one plus a 6.5. Don't really have a feel on the total. Maybe it would lean under, but very weak play there. But I'm going to go Washington, but there is a lot of travel factors. If Washington gets smoked here, then I think it's an auto bet. Just bet the away team or bet the home team in every Big Ten matchup going forward with this east to west travel.
Yeah, I've been trying to look at that a lot this year. Totally agree about Sherrone Moore, though. I think he will be on the hot seat kind of the end of the season. Washington did have to go all the way to Maryland too, and that they were ugly in that game.
Yeah,
pretty much 3 quarters they were bad. They did though. They rallied at the end. They got going. They did get the win. And I remember I was on Maryland. I got it with the points. I was getting like 9 or 10 or something with Maryland, so I did cash that. But with that being said, you could look at it 2 ways. One way, they didn't handle it well. They didn't play well. They squeezed out the win, but ugly. But then you could also say, well, they were already fully across the country just a few weeks ago. They could make some adjustments. I don't know what their schedule's like, getting out there, if they're going to do it a day early or what. So maybe they will make some adjustments and come out a little bit more ready. This spread is so weird because I do think 6.5 points is a lot. I don't really love a play here. I may go against you slightly here. I might lean Michigan on this one just because I think the travel will be enough of an impact. And, if it's only a touchdown, I think Michigan could win this game by a touchdown. I don't love the pick. I do think Michigan will at least win the game close. I would be surprised if Washington gets in there and pulls off the upset. So kind of the similar as you. I'm kind of indifferent on the spread. Might just slightly be on the other side and lean Michigan. Not sure I love it either way. Michigan too, they are a little bit tested. They did have to go to Oklahoma. They did travel all the way to USC. Both of those games they lost. They didn't look great in either. But at least they have that going from them. They've won their games at home. They've beaten, Wisconsin, who I guess is not very good. Wisconsin last week, they were my loser of the week. But with all that being said, I think this might be a little bit of an ugly game. I think Michigan will win it. Do I think they'll cover? I lean that way. I think I would rather take Michigan laying the 6.5, but this is one of those that if it was 7.5, I'd almost say no way. I'm giving me Washington. So just kind of a down the middle play. I don't really love either side, but big game for Washington too. If they want, they want to keep winning. Of course, they're only lost to Ohio State. Huge test for them here. And also, for Sherrone Moore and your Michigan, also a game that you have to win after looking terrible last week against USC. So we'll see what Underwood could do. We'll see if they, get the offense going, and they've had trouble all year, but another opportunity for both these teams to prove themselves in the Big Ten this year. Neither team was, supposed to really do a whole lot, but this is a chance to kind of become the best of the tier 2, I would say, in the Big Ten, of who's going to be like that 4th, 5th team behind Indiana, and Ohio State and Oregon. So big spot for both these teams. We'll see. Lean Michigan, but like I said, don't love it.
Yeah, spot to scream Michigan. So maybe I'm just thinking while we're talking this out, maybe Michigan first half. If you like them, I'll just check the line quick. It is 3.5. So we get a flat 3, maybe. Not a bad play because these teams do not start fast coming from the West Coast. So maybe lean, but like you said, they didn't look good in that Wisconsin game on offense, which was very surprising. So big game for both these teams here to see who could take that next step.
All right, moving on back to the SEC here. We got one we kind of previewed a little bit last week. Paisley, 2 of your favorite teams heading into this year. Number 5, Ole Miss, going on the road to Athens, Georgia. We got a top 10 showdown here. Actually, I don't even know. Is game day here? I'm not sure where game day went this week.
Good question.
I didn't have it marked. I think they did go to Georgia. I also could be wrong, but I think they did. Georgia laying a good amount of points here, 7.5 points. They are home. Ole Miss has its flaws, but so is Georgia. As we talked about a week ago, they could have a couple of losses. Laying 7.5 against Lane Kiffin's Ole Miss Rebels. Total sitting at 54.5. This one, first one that kicks off at 3:30. Paisley, big game, top 10 showdown here in the SEC.
Yeah, game day is going there. Just confirmed it for the viewers out there. Yeah, this is a crazy one. We previewed this one a little bit, gave a little tease on the last show. And I told you off air, and I'm going to stick with the case. I'm going to go with Lane Kiffin plus the points here. Very scary to do it, but I just think it's too high. Again, just playing some numbers this week. I don't know why some of these are overinflated. Could be for good reason. We'll see when the results come out. And do like the over in this one, too. I think this could be a decent amount of points right under that 55 key total that we talk about a lot. So if you could grab that 54.5, I think that's good there. So I'll be on Ole Miss in the over. I don't know if Ole Miss could – I wouldn't be surprised if they win it outright, but I kind of like it up over a touchdown. I like we broke down that Georgia-Auburn game last week, Case, and I just don't like this Georgia team. They're really skating by, really getting some fortunate breaks, bounces, whatever, and I just feel like it has to run out at some point. So can they do that again here and get a fortunate bounce and win the game? Sure. But can they get enough fortunate bounces or do that to win by, 8, 9, 10 plus? Like that's just where I'm kind of not sold on that yet. So if Georgia squeaks by and wins this one again, war of attrition in the SEC, it's not, you're going to kill every team every week. So you got to give them some credit there. But I just think at some point the luck's got to run out a little bit. The water's going to meet its level here. They easily could have 2 losses. They already have 1. But I say this all not loving this Ole Miss team. This is 2 teams that I want to fade and get away from. But just the points, I just can't believe it was this high. I thought it'd be more in the 4-5 range underneath a touchdown. Ole Miss did not look good against Washington State last week as 32 favorites at home. Yeah. But we discussed this throughout the week in the couple weeks leading up. These look-ahead spots are real, I think, Case, if you look back to some of these. So I'm not putting a ton of stock into a team looking ahead, quote-unquote, into a big matchup. There was a couple examples we highlighted, but I just feel like this Ole Miss team wasn't taking that game that seriously. And, I think they're going to turn around here and then take it a little more seriously, obviously, for Georgia. They haven't fared well against Georgia in the past at Georgia. They won last year at home, obviously, in that rainy game that really played it perfectly. So Georgia definitely has a little revenge on their mind. But I just think the points are too much here. I think they're kind of baiting you to take Ole Miss. But I just don't see this Georgia team really being, again, in that top tier. Not that they're like Michigan. I think they're a lot better. But we kind of separate these teams into, okay, how are you getting priced? Are you priced like a top-tier team? Are you middle class? What are you? And I think Georgia's getting priced like they're the number 4, number 3 team in the country, against the spread-wise. And I just don't see that. I don't think Ole Miss should be number 5 in the country, but I don't think there's much separation here between Ole Miss and Georgia, honestly, if I'm looking at these teams, on paper. So I kind of like Ole Miss, keep it close here. I like their quarterback. I like what he could do. Their defense is definitely playing better. Look good against LSU at home. I know it was LSU, but I think they could do enough here to slow down Georgia. In the past, I remember being on Georgia with some of those great teams going up against Lane's teams, but this Georgia team is just different this year, and I'm just not buying them. I think you could run them a little bit. Their defense is a little susceptible. Now, they make great adjustments like we talked about at halftime. So if Ole Miss is up, don't be surprised. Maybe look at a live line, maybe try and get Georgia back because they really do make some great adjustments. But I'm going to put a lot of faith in Lane this week. Very scary. It worked out last year. Let's see if he can do it again 2 years in a row.
I mean, the good old Lane Kiffin, Paisley. Love to see it. I am going to probably agree and take Ole Miss with all these points just because it's a lot of points. And I do agree that I don't think there's a ton of separation here. 7.5 against, just two of these teams who's very similar, like you said. Neither team has looked dominant. They've had flaws. Georgia found an ugly way to, win that game last week. They got that huge turnover. They got the win at Auburn. That was an impressive win. The only thing that scares me, and you pointed out, it was very likely a look-ahead spot for Ole Miss. But I don't know what they were doing against Washington State last week. Washington State is really bad team. I mean, gave up like 59 against North Texas. North Texas, of course, just got clubbed. They gave up like 60 against USF a week ago. So, there's a lot of uncertainty in this game. Ole Miss just certainly hasn't been quite as tested as Georgia. So I do think Georgia's is like a better team on a neutral field. I probably still lean Georgia, but 7.5 is a lot here. So I'll probably ride with Lane Kiffin as well. But nonetheless, not going to be stunned either way. I don't know what they were doing. If that Washington State result didn't happen, if Ole Miss was on a bye last week, I think I would be all over. I'd be all over Ole Miss, but that scares me a little bit. I'm still going to take them. 7.5 is too many points, I think, in this spot. But yeah, very questionable. I'm starting to question how good all of these teams really are. We've seen a lot of strange results and a lot of look aheads. We saw what happened with, like you said, Penn State, Clemson. I mean, LSU, same thing, week 1 to now. So strange world. I think the winner of this game is in a really good spot. So this is a big game for both teams for, talking playoff implications. Of course, still got to get through that whole gauntlet of an SEC schedule. But if Georgia could, win this game at home, they got the win against, Auburn already a week ago. They got the win against Tennessee on the road, also ugly. But, I think big game for both teams. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Lean Ole Miss just because it's a ton of points. But man, I don't know. We'll see. That Washington State game gives me some pause here.
I think that's why the number got inflated a little bit because of that. And obviously Georgia pulling out the win. So if that Georgia loses, what is that number? But like you said, it's very hard this year because all these teams are so bad. So it is hard to, you get a quality win one week and then it doesn't look that good the week after. So what is LSU? That is a question going into this game, which is weird because if they're, an actually okay, pretty legit team, well, that's a really good win for Ole Miss at home. If they're not, well, then it's fool's gold. And then maybe we're going to be, that's why their spread's up at 7-8 points. So still a lot of question marks early or midway through the season here, which is crazy.
All right, moving on here to the next game. We're going to come back. We got Texas Tech at Arizona State on deck. We might as well, since we just talked about SEC, keep it in the SEC here for number 11, Tennessee. We just talked about them in a moment. Going on the road at number 6, Alabama. Of course, Alabama has looked great ever since their early season loss to Florida State. They got the win, of course, over Georgia on the road. They got the huge win over Missouri on the road. Doesn't get much easier for them, but I think they're in a decent spot here, laying 7.5 points, totals 58.5. Basically, does Tennessee have any fight here? Could they pull off the upset? Not many people giving them a chance on the money line. Alabama laying 7.5, total 58.5. Also, I guess I could note it is a night game there in Tuscaloosa, 7:30 kickoff, so it should be a great atmosphere. But Tennessee at Alabama, always a great game every year. In that one, a lot of great memories over the years.
Yeah, no, and I think Tennessee's definitely pulling their weight the last couple of years. One last year, obviously, those different team with Joe Milroe and all those guys. But I'm gonna go Tennessee again here. I'm gonna go with the underdog plus over a touchdown. I don't love this one as much as the Ole Miss one, if I have to be honest. But it's gonna be tough if I put it on the card or not. But I do like Tennessee in the matchup. They do have a lot of injuries. Just have to double check on those. They got a little banged up. Last game against Arkansas, which was a lot closer than what the spread and everything was indicating. They only won by 3 at home. So that was a little alarming. But again, I think I love this Alabama team early on. And then they lost Florida State, kind of sold their stock. And I think I bet against them the last 3 weeks in a row. And I think they covered every week. So we're going to try one more time. We're going to go against them one more time here. Don't love this one as much as the others. But I feel like the scheduling quirk has to wear on Alabama at some point. But they really have been proven. They looked really impressive in that Missouri game, especially early. So maybe they're just built different. Maybe they're a different team. They do a lot of things great, especially throwing the ball. Ty Simpson's really playing at a high level. Defense definitely getting better each week. But again, this is another just kind of rinse and repeat where I just think the number is a little too high. I just don't see as much separation. I think a couple of these go a different way. If Georgia gets that 4th down call against Alabama at home in a different light, maybe we're looking at that differently. If Vanderbilt doesn't let up a 4th down run with 12 seconds left, I'm talking against the spread wise, not actual results. Maybe they get a cover there. So Alabama got fortunate to cover. They didn't cover depending on the number you got against Missouri. So they've been right at these numbers every game. And I think it's going to be another one that's going to be somewhat close. I just think I really like Aguilar. I really like this Tennessee team. It's kind of a sleeper, but this will be a big prove-it game here, and I just don't know if the defense could hold up enough. That's just where I'm a little scared if I'm Tennessee and backing them here. So if they could just slow down Alabama a little bit, they are very dynamic. Alabama got a little banged up too in that Missouri game, so it's the war of attrition. It's a lot of heavy physical games back to back to back. This is your 4th game. They're at home here. I thought Missouri would pick them off, but I'm not saying Tennessee will. But I think they'll really keep this one competitive. And like I said with these SEC games a couple weeks ago, I'm just going to be leaning towards the underdog a little more. Just because these teams, I don't see a lot of separation. I don't think there's a top team. I think we both agreed on the recap. Alabama is the top team in the SEC, but now laying 7-8. It was up to 9 early in the week when I grabbed it at 9.5. I just don't know if they're that head and shoulders above everybody else. I think the SEC is so heavy in the middle. So I'm just going to keep leaning to underdogs again and hopefully get these good numbers above a touchdown, above a field goal. Don't need them to win, but just lose by 7 or less, and I'll be happy. Would like to lean to the over too in this one, 58.5, but just got to check on these injuries too, because there was some big injuries for Tennessee, but this number's moving down, so maybe we got some positive signs there. But I kind of like a little shootout here, a little back and forth. I could see us going over 58.5.
Yeah, this one's tough. I was on, Ole Miss taking the 7.5 here against Georgia. I think I'm going to have to keep rolling with Alabama. I've been rolling with them for a couple of weeks now. I know I wrote them off week 1, but they seem to be back. They look good against Missouri. They look good against Missouri or Vandy, like we just talked about. And I think back home they are. That's a good point though about going through it every week. I mean, at some point you got to think they'll wear down. Georgia, Vanderbilt, Missouri, all back to back to back weeks. So not easy, but they're just back home. And I don't know, Tennessee. I've seen some flaws. I do think they're a good team, but they've been giving up a ton of points this year. Squeaked by Arkansas. They took single overtime to beat Mississippi State. Gave up 24 against UAB. I don't think there's a mile gap between these two teams by any means, but at 7.5, I'm still going to ride with Alabama. I think they're going to come home. I think they'll have a statement win by double digits. That's just kind of how I feel here. Like we said, I think Tennessee is still a solid team. I think they're a formidable opponent. I just think Alabama's starting to click at the right time. Mid-October, they seem to be just getting a little bit better every week. The way that I've been watching them lately. And I think this number, they're going to score a lot of points. I think Tennessee could score some points too. So, keep that in mind for possibly taking the over. But I just think Alabama's offense is gonna score a good amount of points. I don't think Tennessee will be able to keep up. I think they'll maybe pull away later in the game, like fourth quarter. Maybe we'll see something like Alabama did against Vandy and was able to win that game by 16, where it was much closer. Don't think there's like I said, huge gap, but I'm back on the Alabama train, Paisley. We'll see if they let me down here. At some point, they probably will again, but back home under the lights, a rivalry game. Tennessee's defense has showed flaws. Rolling with the tide, Paisley. Rolling with the tide here.
Don't hate it. I was just going to throw another point out. Not a big trends guy, but I feel like the home team in this series always does well, at least the last 4 to 5 years, no matter who the teams are, coaches, whatever. So that is one thing that definitely the home team, Tennessee, I think got them last 2 times at home, and then I think Alabama got them their last 2 times at home. And I'm just trying to pull up the Alabama schedule because when is their bye? They have to have a bye coming up soon because this is crazy. I think they're playing South Carolina next week and then their bye. So that's going to be crazy, but just a really brutal sketch here. So if they could look impressive in this one, I think we really got to think of Alabama in that top 3 discussion. Then I know Indiana, Miami, and Ohio State are getting that love, but to bounce back and have these 4 wins, if they could pull this one off and look impressive and cover the number, I think we really got to take them in that upper echelon discussion there.
Yeah, that's a great point. And also, I'm not to get ahead of ourselves too, but if they get a big win here, could they have a little bit of a hangover going to South Carolina? Right. I imagine that spread's going to be huge. Probably minus like 17, I would imagine, if they get through Tennessee, or minus 14.5, something like probably between like 14 and 17. So watch out that next week. Yeah. So they'll be going through, 8 weeks practically, no bye in a year where you get a double bye. So I'm trying to think of where their other bye week even is. I don't even
Well,
know.
I
I
think
guess they have one early September. That's what it was. Like after week
yeah,
2,
I
they
don't know if
have
they
it.
get a third bye against Eastern Illinois, the second to last game of the
That's
year.
true too. That is
Maybe
that
that's
is
their bye.
ridiculous.
Is that what they
Yeah.
count it as?
They don't even have to show up to that game. Yeah, Eastern Illinois. Anyway.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, but good points all around there. We'll see. Tennessee at Alabama should be a good one. We'll see if Alabama could continue the momentum they've been on the last few weeks and get the win there. All right, we'll come back to the Big 12 quickly, and then we'll move on. We got number 7, Texas Tech, laying 7.5, going all the way to Arizona State. Total sitting at 51.5. Of course, we know Arizona State last week got absolutely clubbed. Didn't realize their entire roster is out. We'll see. I don't even know, Paisley, to be honest, how many guys are supposed to be back for this game. I don't know the whole injury report for them or what the status. I guess Sam Levitt, is he supposed to play?
I think they're saying he's supposed to now. He's supposed to play.
Okay.
Now. That's what
So
I
that
heard.
would help a little bit. Texas Tech, though, laying 7.5. Everybody knows this. They've been the clear-cut number 1 really in the Big 12 ever since they had that dominant win against Utah. But this is a tough spot. They got to travel on the road after a team that just got, pretty banged up a week ago. A little bit of tricky spot here. Texas Tech, I think they got to be ready to go. Still a very talented Arizona State team here on the road, kicking off at 4 p.m. Eastern here.
Yeah, this one's a tricky one, like we talked about last week with the injuries. Don't know the extent of all the injuries on the Arizona State team because they did have a ton. But the most important one was their quarterback, and obviously it matters going from Sam Levitt, who's a top 15 quarterback, to Jeff Sims, who should be on a high school team. So really got to make sure. But this line was at 10-11, coming down to 7.5. And the reports I'm reading is that he's going to go. It's a high ankle sprain is what they're saying it is. And it's very weird. I'm just kind of calling this out because this might come out a couple weeks later, but he was practicing that week of Utah. And then on like Thursday morning, the line jumped. And that's when I text you. I'm like, it moved 5 points. Like, what's going on? So I don't think he got injured at practice is what they're saying. So was there a party incident maybe at Arizona State where he's out
party
or did a little, I don't know what he was playing, pick up basketball. I don't know what it was, but I don't think he got injured at practice. He wasn't injured the game before. And he got injured so late leading up to that Utah game. So just keep your eyes on that. If you see a story come out about that, I think that could be funny. Not saying that it's actually true, but I think that is the only case because he was literally practicing all week leading up to Utah. But so, yeah, if he gives it a go here, I don't know if he'll be 100%. Those high ankle sprains are very difficult. So I don't know what to do on the side here. I've seen people liking Texas Tech. I don't mind that. I would probably lean that way if I do have to play it. But I'm actually going to go under again. We got burned last week on an Arizona State under. Like I told you, I got 7 points of CLV. It was looking really good, and they went over by 0.5 point. But I think if Sam Levitt, this number got bumped up a little bit. It was 48.5 now through the key of 51. 51 and 55 are very key in college football. So if you could go under 51.5, I think that's a go. I think Texas Tech's defense is going to be able to limit Sam Levitt at 50%, however he's going to play. I think they'll be able to keep that side down. And then I think Arizona State's defense is, formidable and I think okay. And I think Texas Tech also had an injury on their side with their starting quarterback. Bram Morton got banged up a little bit in that Kansas game. I'm not sure if he's going to go. He should. So a little bit banged up quarterbacks. I like both defenses, defensive-minded head coaches. So I think the number is a little high. So I'll take an under in this game.
I love it. I looked up Sam Levitt too. They're saying some sort of right foot injury. I don't know. You're right though. Wasn't even taped. Maybe he jumped off a balcony or something and got a little bit of a sprain or something. Had 1 or 2 too many whiskey sours out there. I don't know. I really wanted to pick Arizona State here, and actually, when we started the podcast, and I was going through the games, I was really going to pick Arizona State with the points, but I just after reevaluating, I just can't do it. They haven't looked themselves this year. I mean, just being honest, I know last week with the injuries, but even like TCU, Baylor scraping by them. They had the early loss to Mississippi State. They've shown signs, of progress. They've shown signs of consistency, but they just haven't put it all together yet. And I just think Texas Tech is a little bit better than even myself was giving them credit for. Kind of, still hard for me to believe that where Texas Tech is this year. I just really like them. They got that big win, of course, against Utah on the road. They came back. They defeated Houston on the road, which we both said could be a trap game, look good. They blew out Kansas a week ago. And this is, one of those lines at 7.5. I think they'll win this game by, a couple of touchdowns also. I think they'll cover this number. And defeat Arizona State. Like I said, I really liked Arizona State coming into the year. I still want to believe in them a little bit, but they just haven't showed me enough. And now, who knows what's going on with their roster? It kind of now just adds a whole nother, curveball into this. So I like Texas Tech here. I think they'll cover the number. I think, they're solidifying themselves as a legit. I know they kind of already were, but for me now it's starting to really come around that they're the legit, playoff contender, Big 12, presumably, champion until we see somebody else that could, battle them. Can't sleep on Arizona State by any means, though. This is still a tough game for them. They have to continue to win. But I've liked them, too much now coming into this week. Give me Texas Tech laying the points.
Yeah, it's a great point with that. We did question that. We said, can they look good every week and really separate themselves? I think you're spot on. I think they really are proving that. Another test here, but they really have been clearing the bar. And last note on this one, if Jeff Sims is playing, if they finally rule him out and the line goes up to 14, 21, 30, whatever it is, do not bet Arizona State, please. Do not. I watched that game the first 2 quarters last weekend. Do not do it, Case. Don't do it out there, US. Yeah. Don't do it. Don't do it.
I did. I fell in the trap last week, added in my card last second, got absolute doors blown off. Part of my 4-10 record. So not falling for it this week, Paisley. Give me the Red Raiders. All right, moving on, Paisley. We have your Notre Dame Fighting Irish hosting the number 20 now, top 25. We said it. If they got through Michigan, they'd probably be ranked. Here they are. Number 20, USC at number 13, Notre Dame. Notre Dame laying a decently large number here, 9.5, but deservedly so, probably. They've blown out about every team I think they've played since, that loss against Texas A&M. The total is high, 61.5. I know you've been all over the Irish overs pretty much throughout this season. I've been a little higher, I think, than the average fan too on USC. Actually, kind of even both these teams. I've liked Notre Dame really even week 1. I started to question them after the A&M loss, but they, seem to pick up similar storyline to last year. I know completely different, but starting to get some wins together. They're looking pretty dominant in doing so. They're at home. USC coming off the big win last week. Might see a ton of points here. Paisley, what do you think for the Fighting Irish this week? Are they going to get another statement win, or is Lincoln Riley going to make a late playoff push here for Southern Cal?
Yeah, it's a great thing. Lots of things to get to because there's a lot of factors in this game. To start with USC, I think that was a big win. They really put a lot of chips in that. It was almost like a championship type feel when they beat Michigan. They were very emotional. So really looking at that spot also favors Notre Dame, like you said, at home here. USC now has to travel after such emotional win. I know it was a big win, but people were crying and stuff. It was crazy. But, because we're physical now and all that. All right, let's see you do it again here in week 2 against back-to-back week against Notre Dame. Also the weather. So this is where I'm going to get to the total. The weather is not looking great for fan watching and stuff, but I think it really does play into Notre Dame's hands. It's looking about 50, a little bit of rain, not like a monsoon, but it's showing 40, 50% chance literally from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. right in the game time, right before, during game time. So I'm really watching that. Haven't made a play on the over actually yet. If it was clear conditions, 50, 55, no rain, I would definitely be on it. USC got their running backs banged up a little bit. They got 2, I think both or 1 and 2 guys got banged up. They were going with a walk-on at the end of the Michigan game, and I don't think both of them are going to play. I think they're both out. One's out for the season and one's out for 3-4 weeks. So that definitely hurts the USC offense. USC's offense, though, as a whole, has been really electric. It does start with the run game. Notre Dame's defense has been really good this year against the run. The struggles have been against the pass. So I do think Notre Dame's defense is going to be able to stop USC's run, which will have USC be forced to throw it. But they have a really good quarterback, and they have 2 legit wide receivers. And last time we saw this at Texas A&M, it was a track meet and it was a show when Marcel Reed and those 2 guys on the outside from Texas A&M went up and down. Now, Notre Dame's defense has played better. They have. But the competition has been a little worse. But I will take that NC State game. Their offense was good, and C.J. Bailey was playing at a very high level, and they really shut him down. He missed a couple deep throws that could have changed the game, but for over the course of 4 quarters, that defense really clamped down on him. They clamped down on Mattis Matson and the Boise State. They were more a run-heavy team, but they really shut them down, looked good. So this is going to be a huge test for Notre Dame. Obviously a huge game in general, but this is going to be a huge test if they win this game to see if they could stack up in the national picture as a top 10, top 15 team. Because if they could shut down USC's defense or offense and hold them to, under 21 points, under 17 points, it's going to be a really strong showing that this team could maybe make a run, hopefully win every game the rest of the season and then maybe make some noise in the playoff if they get to that point. I have no worries at all about Notre Dame's offense here in this one. I think they're really going to exceed, really do like their team total. That's probably my favorite play. It's at 35.5. I'd love for it to be at 34.5, but a play that I was thinking of during the week to kind of combine them. You can't do them at a lot of sports books, but maybe just FanDuel and DraftKings. I'd combine the Notre Dame money line and the team total over 34 or 33.5 points. I think Notre Dame's going to score their points, rain or shine. I think if it's rain, it might be even better because they can really get that run game going. And it's going to be a little slippery tackling on that AstroTurf. So I think Notre Dame's going to put up at least 35. I'm very confident in that. I've been betting these overs the last couple of weeks, and Notre Dame's defense has been stepping up to the plate and really stopping the other team. And you need both teams for an over, unless Notre Dame goes nuclear here, but it is a very high total at 61. So I was gumming in this game. I was loving all the factors. I would be loving an over here, probably a best bet. But with the rain, with the injuries on the USC side, I'm not as confident now, but I do kind of like it that they have to throw the ball a little bit more at USC. I don't think they're going to be able to run. I think they'll be down most of the game. So that's where I'll probably still put it as a play, probably a nice 1-unit play on the over in general. I do like the team total. And then for the side case, I'm actually leaning USC a little bit plus the points. I think it's just a little bit too much disrespect to USC. I know Notre Dame's playing really well. They kind of hit these strides, though, middle of the season, the last 2 years with Marcus Freeman, where they just kind of cover every game. Like, I think he is one of the best against the spread coaches here in the recent couple of years here, a small data size. But if they win these games, they kind of get rolling and they just like steamroll, not like in Indiana, but kind of along those same lines like they did against NC State. Like, that game was kind of close. They ended up winning by 35. So it was kind of close against Purdue in the first quarter. They ended up winning by 30. So they really do have that offense where if you have to stop them and cover a number or beat them outright, you have to play 4 quarters of defense, or you just got to outscore them like Texas A&M did, or be a complete team like Miami. So that's where I'm a little skittish on the side, little skittish on the total. But my favorite play in this one, I'm going to go Notre Dame team total because I just really trust them. I don't see USC's defense really stopping them or having the same success like they had against Michigan. That was a one-trick pony. They could only run it. They could load up the box. Notre Dame is not that, so I think they're going to put up a ton of points themselves.
Yeah, I didn't know about the weather when we went live here, so that is an interesting factor. We'll see how Southern Cal could combat that. Of course, too, they usually have great weather all year, so something to keep in mind that when USC joined the Big Ten, we'd say how did they play at Minnesota? Well, they lost. How did they play at Illinois? Well, they lost that one. Now they got to go to South Bend and what you're saying, the rain, so could be tough. This is one I was kind of undecided on. I liked USC in the beginning of the week. I thought I had enough faith in them. I've kind of been a little high on them all year. They look good offensively. Of course, they had that tough one against Illinois, but then they bounced back here at home against Michigan. But then I look at Notre Dame, and then Notre Dame hasn't had, like you said, a game really within 20 points since that Texas A&M loss. So it makes me, if they get rolling and there's a slight talent gap and they, third quarter comes around, I could see Notre Dame pulling away in this game and, winning by close to 20 points. Like, that's really just how I feel, like 17 plus whatever late in the game. Rain is a little bit of an X factor. Not sure I love either play. I don't think I'll have an official pick. Maybe come Saturday, if I sway one way or the other, that is possible. Maybe I would, officially go with Notre Dame. But if I have a lean right now, I take a -9.5. Don't love it, but just from what I've seen the last few weeks against NC State, Boise, Arkansas, they, what was that, like 60 to 10 or 60 to 15 or whatever it was. They just, turned it on in the second half. I'm looking forward to this, though, just as a fan, not having any, stock here into either team. Two interesting quarterbacks to watch. Jayden Maeda, who's played great for USC this week or this year, really all season long. 13 touchdowns, 2 interceptions only on the season. And, of course, Notre Dame's got C.J. Carr, the young quarterback, very similar. 13 touchdowns, 3 interceptions only on the season. They, both going to be well over that, 25, 3,000 yards passing on the season. So that's going to be really fun. It's always fun as a fan, too, to see a lot of points. It's always fun, what you're saying now, to see a game in the rain. So it will be interesting to watch that. But right now, Paisley, I don't want to give you too much credit, but I do like Notre Dame laying the points. But that being said, I was also Notre Dame, I believe, against both of Miami and A&M and, lost both of those. So I don't know, maybe, like I said in the beginning, I know nothing about college football here, but I just – Too many. I don't know. I just think Notre Dame is. I think they'll get it offensively. I think they'll be able to pull away late and get the win big here. I don't know. It's just my gut feeling says that's going to happen.
Yeah, and as we're talking through this here, also thinking of Notre Dame first half, maybe, you got USC coming off that emotional, the travel.
Yeah.
It's not just a DraftKings -5.5, so it's under a touchdown. Could see Notre Dame maybe jumping out here and getting off to a good start. And their fourth down calls have been something that's going to be big in this game if it's a close game. They got away with it because it wasn't too close of games, but somebody that's watching every snap. Their fourth down play calling is not great. They've been kind of coming up empty in some of these possessions. When they're on the 20, 15 in the red zone, they don't kick the field goal. Their kicker's not that great this year, so they are trying to be a little more aggressive. So I think that could bite them in a game like this if it's close, but maybe it won't be. In a last shout out, Uncle Joe. I know he's watching this. We've been watching games together going back from the tush push days, or tush push. I'm getting that confused. The bush push back in 2005, I think it was. And there were some things broken, maybe a couch that got dismantled at the end of that game. So hopefully we don't have any of those this time, but we will be getting together watching it like we do every year. So shout out. He's a big listener of this podcast and viewer. So shout out, Joe.
Yeah, big shout out, Uncle Joe. Will not lie, I will probably be my heart rooting against Notre Dame here, but forget that. That doesn't matter. Hopefully nothing gets broken here at the rebar. That would be very devastating. Got to keep those TVs intact for March Madness next year. So don't be breaking anything. Long season. Yeah. Also, didn't even really highlight. Well, kind of did. USC though, huge game if they do win. Like they are well on their way to a playoff if they do pull off the upset. So just keep that in mind for USC's angle. Huge game for them. And yeah, Notre Dame practically a playoff eliminator game. They got to win this game. So gonna be fun Saturday night in South Bend in the rain, which you didn't know. All right, moving on. SEC final game here. I feel like at this point of the year, we're just doing almost every other SEC game because there's so many good ones. We got Missouri, number 16 in the country. Of course, had the heartbreaking loss against Alabama a week ago. Bo Prabula going on the road at a tough Auburn team. Totals at 43.5. This one kicking off just after 7:30 or 7:45. Paisley, my gut here. As bad as Jackson Arnold has been for Auburn, I think at some point they're going to pick off one of these SEC teams. They've been close. I think Missouri's better, but this spread is weird. It's only 1.5. I think I almost think Missouri should be like 3-4 point favorites, even though they're on the road. Auburn's got another home game. They're at night again. They kind of got like take number 3 now, a chance. Gonna be tough. Got to win one of these games. Total's pretty low, 43.5. Is this are they finally going to pull off the upset here, or is Missouri going to pick up just where they left off before Alabama and go back to dominating?
I'm with you on Auburn. I think I'm gonna ride with Auburn here. I do like them a good amount, actually. This is one team kind of my opposite Alabama, where I really like Alabama as a team. I could just never bet on them because I just feel like the numbers aren't lining up or the spots. Auburn, I'm not too high on, but the numbers and the spots just keep lining up, and I feel like I have to keep playing this team. So we're going to try it one more time. They've been in these games and so good at like covering these games or keeping them close. I'm with you. I think they're going to win this one outright here and get a big win. They've been so deserving. The only thing is just how crushing is that loss going to be last week to Georgia. That's a huge rival, huge top 5, could have been a big upset for their program, top 10 upset. And they let it slip away. It was so crushing. So can they respond? Can they bounce back? I don't know if Hugh Freeze is really that type of leader and that coach, but I just think the team and the defense is good enough here to really keep this game close in the fourth quarter, and I think they actually get a bounce or two to go their way. Maybe the refs help them out this time instead of hurting them. And on the Missouri side, I'm just kind of selling my Missouri stock case. In games like these, coin flip games, I'll still, maybe look at Missouri, but once they step up into competition, I'm just really going to not look at this Missouri team the same way. I think they're very fortunate beating up on some of the smaller teams, being able to run the ball. But when you got to go up against these really good defenses or really, close spread games, you got to be able to throw the ball. And I just haven't seen that. I think it was a lot better team to throw the ball on against Alabama at home versus now you're on the road against a better defense in Auburn. So I think it's going to be a little more tough sledding. And I was actually surprised Auburn wasn't a slight favorite in this one. This kind of opened up Missouri and's been staying on that side. So I will gladly take Auburn here. I think it's a little deflated. I think they're just getting too many, bad remarks because of all those bad bounces and bad stuff that went their way. But if you look at their last 3 contests, they were right in it to the end. Easily could have won all 3. Just came up a little short in 2 of them. So I think they're getting a little bit too much, discredit on their services. So I'm going to back Auburn again, but back them a lot this year. But I was just very surprised. I think they should be a slight favorite in this one.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go Auburn too. I think they're gonna pick off one of these SEC teams. They've been very close. They're back home. One weird stat, or I heard it on Barstool or somewhere. Jackson Arnold, who has 0 interceptions, by the way, this year, because he doesn't really throw the ball. 0 interceptions. He has the lowest QBR in college football with 0 interceptions. So keep that in mind.
But he takes so many sacks. I know you know this guy too well, Justin Fields in the NFL, but he reminds me of that, where it's just head down, not looking, can't pass, and it's just very frustrating from a viewing standpoint. But we're backing him here, so maybe he'll get a little better this time.
All right, I know we're going long here. Just a ton of great games to break down here, but we got number 23 Utah, Big 12, laying 3.5, going on the road at number 15 BYU. I was all over Arizona last week, got screwed in overtime. Arizona blew that game. BYU came back up. The big win. Remember, was it last year or the year before where they were like 9 or 10-0 BYU, and they kind of, then lost like 2 of the 3 last games of the season. Here they are here, though, again, as a dark horse playoff team. This is about now, and, if they could keep winning in the Big 12, it's when the Wild West, seems to appear. We got Utah laying 3.5 points at number 15 BYU.
Yeah, I'm going to roll with BYU here. This line, if we're looking at falling lines all week, this was open 3.5, and it has not moved one bit, really. So it's very scary to take the underdog here, like we talk about the trends and stuff like that. But I kind of like BYU plus the hook. I'm kind of selling my Utah stock after that Texas Tech game. I really liked them before the year. But again, they could really only win one way, which is ground and pound. They can't throw the ball, very run heavy, but their defense is really good. BYU, on the other hand, has a fantastic freshman quarterback. Like we both said, we stayed up to watch that Arizona game, which was very crushing because we were both on Arizona there. But he's a baller, man. I think he ran it 20 sometimes, like I told you. He's a really good dual threat, could throw it a little bit. So I think there's a little more dynamic at the quarterback position than Utah. They're at home here. Their defense has looked okay in spurts. It's not a great defense, but I think this is one of those like upper echelon rivalry games, where it's just close, super tight NFL-like style, like an NFC East, type game where I'll just take the underdog and take the points because these teams do not like each other. It's usually they both get up for it. They're going to have everybody's full attention. So kind of like the under in this one a little bit, but I will be on BYU plus 3.5 here. Wasn't there some controversial, crazy ending last year in this game? The athletic director got involved from Utah, I think, or something like that, or was that another game? But so huge revenge. But this one's going to be a fun one. This is a big rival that no one really talks about, the Holy War. But I'll take the home team here plus the points.
Yeah, it is the Holy War. Actually, I forgot to mention that. I should have let off with that. Yeah, battle the Mormons here. BYU, Utah. Yeah. Should be a great game. Utah, I agree with you. I think I wanted to lean BYU. I think I still will with the points, and I may even dabble a little bit on the money line just because they're home. It's going to be hostile. It's going to be a fun game to watch. But Utah did look great against Arizona State a week ago, and I know we said we don't know what the situation is there. They didn't have their quarterback. But really, this one is kind of just as a fan, similar to how I am right now with the Notre Dame USC game. I really don't know what way to go. I think I might just sit back and watch this one without a lot at stake. If I do anything, maybe I'll throw a little bit on the BYU money line just for fun in this game. But yeah, really looking forward to it. I think this is also for the Big 12, who's going to jump into that like second spot, third spot. This is a huge game. Will Utah try to redeem themselves against Texas Tech? Will they, get a rematch with them at the end of the season? So big game for Big 12 implications. Always look forward to the Holy War. And yeah, I think that did happen actually last year with that athletic director. I forget exactly what, caused that, but I do remember that now. That it's going to be a lot of fun to finish off our Saturday night.
Yeah, I'm looking up. It was 22-21 BYU won on a walk-off field goal. I think there was something with the refs, and then that's how BYU got into field goal position and kicked it as time expires. So always an entertaining one. That got them to 9-0 on the season last year, but then they did not finish strong. So yeah, it should be a fun one though in Utah.
All right, moving on to the picks, and then we'll close it out with the underdog parlay of the week. Mr. Paisley, there's some games now that we didn't get to, some preliminary picks. Of course, per usual, our entire slate will be released Friday sometime afternoon because I know we've been picking a lot of Friday games. It seems like also this year there's been a ton more Friday games than typical with all those new TV deals ongoing. So Paisley, what are one of your picks here to kick us off in week 8?
Yeah, start us off. I'm going to go to the MAC. I'm going to take Central Michigan plus 4.5 going on the road at Bowling Green. Bowling Green had a crazy win last week. I was on them on the card, plus 11. They were down 21-0 to Toledo, who's a very good MAC team, and stormed all the way back and got the outright victory. That's a huge rivalry between Bowling Green and Toledo. Now they come back after that emotional victory, huge comeback. They got Central Michigan team that's playing some good ball. They're definitely in the middle tier of the MAC. They have a good defense. They have a quirky run game that's a very like Navy type style, so it's very hard to prepare for. So I just like Central Michigan here in the spot. I wouldn't be shocked if they win this game outright. Bowling Green's a good team. They're not great, but they just keep winning these games or covering, and I feel like it's got to run out at some point. So just more of a spot play here, but give me Central Michigan, the Chippewas, to get an outright win, but I'll take them plus 4.5 on the road at Bowling Green.
I love it. CMU plus 4.5 for Mr. Paisley's first pick. I'm going to take us to the Power Four. I'm going to go Louisville with 13.5 at Miami. This is a weird Friday night game, Paisley. A lot of weird things happen on Friday. Miami has looked great. They've been looking dominant. They're clearly, 1, 2, or 3 in the country in whatever order you want to put them. A weird spot and a tough Louisville team. Louisville has not looked bad. They've shown signs of some great football this year. They're getting a ton of points. They got to travel on the road, but I'm just thinking Miami might be a little bit sleepy. A lot of points. I've been selling Miami over the years, as everybody knows. So, could this be the spot? I'm not going that far to say an upset here, but too many points, 13.5. I think we might get a lower scoring than, some people will think in this one. I think maybe the offense will be a little sluggish for both sides here on this Friday. So give me Louisville with 13.5 here. Might surprise some people down there in Miami Gardens.
Love that one, Case. Love it. That's a great pick. I'm also on that one as well. No one's really talking about Miami. I feel like they're the top team that no one's really talking about. Obviously, in the ACC, it's not that good, but I think this could be their toughest test, definitely the rest of the way until that Pittsburgh game late in the season and then possibly the AC Championship. Right. But this one is not easy. I was very surprised this one was up around 2 touchdowns, so solid pick there. For mine, I'm going to stay in the ACC as well. I'm going to go SMU plus 10, traveling to Clemson. I was on Clemson last week, huge on them against UNC. They look great. They look back on track, but I think that was more a UNC problem. I just thought this number is a little high here at SMU. I haven't been a big SMU guy this year. Their defense is not that great, but Kevin Jennings is playing really good on that side of the ball. The offense has been clicking and looking really good. They had a nice win against Stanford last week at home. I just think the number is a little high. I think they're going to keep this a little close with Clemson here. I just don't think Clemson's the big bad Clemson that they've been the last couple of years. So just thought it was a little crazy. It was in the double digits here. So I think SMU could keep it close. And, Clemson hasn't been looking great at home this year. So maybe another Syracuse type, outright upset. But so give me SMU plus 10.
Yeah, Paisley, I'm starting to get annoyed again with Clemson. Their schedule's kind of getting weaker. I think they have a chance here to run the table. I really do not want to see them at 9-3. I don't want to see them somehow get going here. This would be a great spot for just an upset. Pick SMU to possibly win outright. I mean, I might do that. So I like them with the plus 10 here. And great point. Clemson has not looked, great at home either. So also in agreement with that pick. My second pick here, I'm going to kind of go a little surprise here. I'm going to take South Carolina with the 5.5 against Oklahoma. Weird game. South Carolina hasn't looked great all year. They've looked pretty bad. They got killed by Vandy, of course. Lost to Missouri, lost to LSU. They're starting to compile some losses. I think they kind of put it together here against Oklahoma. Oklahoma coming off of an emotional loss against Texas. We know John Mateer wasn't 100%, but I'm selling a little bit of my Oklahoma stock. And this is one of those games where I think Auburn's going to pick somebody off in the SEC and get the win over Missouri this week. I think there's a chance South Carolina could pick off Oklahoma. And with 5.5, I'll gladly take that on my card with over a field goal. So a little bit of surprise, but I'm going to go South Carolina with the 5.5 here.
I also like that one too, Case. I like all your picks this week, actually. But shout out our guy in the chat. We've been bagging on South Carolina a lot this year, but I forget his name at the moment. But hopefully he's looking
Carolina Jackpot. Great game.
Yeah, thank you. We will both be supporting South Carolina. I'm with you, Case. I think they get a lot right upset. I'm really selling Oklahoma. Also like the under in that game. It's going to be sloppy, low scoring. For this one, it's not going to be sloppy and low scoring. So we're going to take the over in the UNLV Boise State going up to the Bluegrass. I think over 62 is the play here at 62.5. I think both these offenses could really exploit the weakness of these defenses. It's going to be a run-heavy game, but both teams, Boise and UNLV, are not great tackling. That was on display when I went to Notre Dame to watch them against play Notre Dame in their run game. Notre Dame was running all over them. I think UNLV could do the same thing here. And UNLV's defense, they are undefeated, I think, as we record here. But they are not really that great an undefeated team. The spread is up to 13, 14.5, so that indicates where it's at right now. But I think UNLV is going to have a lot of success on offense. I like their quarterback, Calandria, to run around, make some plays. I think they could run the ball very effectively here. Dan Mullen pulling the strings there. And I think Boise could do the same on a bad UNLV defense. UNLV and Air Force last week, no one was probably watching that game. I think it was 61-58 was the final score, 51-48, something of that nature. So this team loves to play in shootouts in UNLV, and I think Boise will put up a fair amount of points, but I think UNLV will too. So give me a high total there on the Bluegrass over 62.5.
I love it. 62.5 taking you over. Boise, they still haven't lost a game too since the USF week 1. They've been running the table.
Well, I guess until Notre Dame too. So they have 2 losses, but they are undefeated in conference, so they still have that to play for.
All right. I will be going with UCLA as my third pick here, -3.5, 2-1 in the Big Ten. They've seemed to have somehow figured out what's going on down there. I don't know how they're doing it, but they look great against, obviously, the Penn State. Their offense did. The Michigan State, it looks like they never even skipped a beat in that game on the road, too, of all places, traveling all the way to East Lansing, getting a huge win. Maryland has to come all the way across country. Maryland, who I was kind of high on at times, but every time Maryland gets something going, they just blow it. We saw it against Washington. We've seen it multiple times over the years. So laying 3.5, it's kind of a weird one, but I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm gonna throw some faith here, and I think UCLA is they've shown me enough over the last couple of weeks. If they could score some points, I think they're gonna score enough. I think they'll defeat Maryland here by over a field goal, cover the 3.5.
Is UCLA going to Indianapolis, maybe run the table here and go into the Big Ten championship to play?
It's
Ohio
possible.
State?
The only thing is if Ohio State and Indiana remain unbeaten in the Big Ten, although Ohio State will have the loss against Michigan, so since they can't beat them, so maybe we'll get a little tiebreaker between UCLA and Ohio State. Watch out for that.
They're looking like a buzzsaw. I also like that pick too. But for the last one here to round us out, I'm going to go Old Dominion. We previewed this game a little bit last week when I was talking about the group of 5. ODU +1.5 going to James Madison. This is a huge game for Sun Belt purposes and for group of 5 overall. South Florida is definitely looking like the lead horse, but a lot can happen still here. So ODU lost to Marshall last week pretty badly, and Marshall's not too great. But they had 5 turnovers in the game. I also think I'm going to chalk that up to a look-ahead spot. They knew they had to go on the road here to a big team in James Madison. That's definitely been the talk of the town the last couple of years. When Kurt Cinetti was there, and even last year, they had a really good season. And James Madison's just not looking the same this year. They have those 2 quarterbacks. They kind of stuck with one now. They're playing more of the passer, but the offense still is not really clicking. So I just think ODU is more complete. They're a better team. I think they were looking ahead a little bit last week. I think they get a big statement win here for their program for a team that's not really talked about, but I think they get on the map here. So give me ODU +1.5 here to get a big win.
I love it. Going a little ODU, Ricky Ronnie down there, +1.5. So love to see it. All right. Well, that is all of our picks. We did our preview, and now what everybody has been waiting for, of course, we have the underdog parlay of the week. Had a couple big wins early on in the season, kind of haven't been as great since then. I'd get one right. Paisley will get it wrong for a lot of weeks. Paisley, you had them all right for like 3 in a row. I was missing on those. I think we got a good one this week. Paisley, who is your underdog to win outright?
Yeah, really like this one. I think we've been splitting 1-1 every week, so we're very close. Haven't gone on 0-2, but this one I think, Case, the big winner. I'm going to go Purdue +136. This is actually my favorite pick of the weekend. I like them plus the points, but I actually like them to win outright. They're 3-point dogs on the road at Northwestern. Another big spot play here. I think Northwestern coming off of that huge Penn State win last week, obviously. They won the game, but they didn't look great against Penn State. So now they're coming back home. I think they're a little overrated. Purdue, I think, is the opposite. I think they're a little underrated. They really have been looking good these last couple of weeks. Even against Notre Dame, they put up 24 points. So the offense is cooking, which is weird for a Purdue team. Their defense is where they have the struggles. So I really think they're going to be able to put up their side of the points here. I think they'll win, with a late score, a late touchdown here. So give me Purdue in a great spot, even though they lost the last 2, but they really could have won these games and looked really good in them and outgained the other team. So give me Purdue, give me the Boilermakers, plus 136 for my late case.
Back in the day when we used to have Big Ten East, Big Ten West, we're going to have two Big Ten West teams, because I am going to go the Minnesota Golden Gophers on Friday night. I guess I should have went first here, but Friday night at plus 240 to upset Nebraska. They're home. Nebraska just finds a way to screw it up every year. They start to get going. They're just finally ranked. I don't know. There's been some discussions about Matt Rule, a lot of discussions this week about coming to Penn State. So could there be any distractions? I don't know. Maybe, I don't know what's going on there. But with all that even being thrown out, I love Minnesota in this spot. 8.5 is a ton of points, but I think this is just one of those weird Friday night games at home. Crowds are going to be rocking. Give me the Golden Gophers to get the big upset win over Dylan Raiola and the 5-star recruit Nebraska Cornhuskers.
I love that one. And yeah, if you got to listen to the pod here, get that in on Friday. We'll put out the picks. But if you put those two together, plus 702. So nice little juicy off of two-leg parlay. So Big Ten West parlay, let's get us home, plus 702.
I love it. All right, folks, we will be back on Monday. I guess we've been doing Sunday night, actually, to do the whole Week 8 recap. Stay safe out there. Paisley, best of luck for the Fighting Irish. And yeah, we'll be back next week.